day and afternoon with all of you. I think this is the first time I've ever been part of a three continent talk, and so it's just exciting to have everyone in the room here together. Um, there are a multitude of events happening over here that are making it a little hard to join the time of night, the new political order, and also I'm recovering from COVID. So I'm sorry if I'm whispering slightly, but please do feel free to tell me to speak up if I'm being too quiet. Um, I I think there was a prompt that might have been sent around earlier. I'm not sure if everyone got it, but there's a prompt just to think about what might smell new in the spaces where you live. And so there's going to be a little bit of a mention of that in the American context in the talk, and maybe we can pause for a second and just hear about what might smell new in your home at that point, if that's okay. So just prepping you that there might be a moment where I'd love to hear from you in just a little bit. Um, so today does feel like given the election results in the United States right now, it does feel like a very fitting time to be thinking about toxic atmospheres and particularly American problems. And so one of the tricky things about my work in an international context is it's very focused on the U.S. So I just wanted to admit that, but also it does reflect upon global issues. So I'm going to be talking a lot about engineered woods, which is, you know, the material that you see here making up this person's wall in the Midwest home in Oklahoma that this picture is taken from. And particularly, I'm interested not just in the woods themselves, but in a particular chemical called formaldehyde, which is the binding agent for most of these engineered woods. And this is a quick GIF taken from a petrochemical industry website attempting to sort of show how important formaldehyde is for holding together the built environment, not only in the US, but across the world. At first, this feels impressive and um, like the chemical might be too big to fail. But then as it keeps spinning, and as I might talk about what formaldehyde as a chemical is, it can become a little bit overwhelming. Formaldehyde is an irritant, an allergen, a known human carcinogen, um, as well as a neurotoxin. And so this chemical that sort of binds together um, the built environment of much of modernity is also biologically unraveling us. So that same chemical affordance that holds together the proteins in wood and wood fibers so well also cross-links DNA and is, the cause of cancer and exposure. So um, my inroads, well, the story to this chemical is not just a story of a particular kind of building material, but it's a story about how the world became plastic also. So bakelite, probably the most famous and first plastic, is held together also with formaldehyde, and that's, spoiler alert, that lets a little bit of the smell when you sort of scratch bakelite. A lot of vintage sellers, when they're trying to authenticate if a vintage earring is bakelite, you'll scratch it to smell it, and that ancient formaldehyde off-gassing is how you prove it's genuine. And these plastic building materials proliferated through the home in after the close of the Second World War. Um, engineered woods and engineered woods were not very common until this engineered wood building boom that was also aligning with the housing boom of needing to house returned servicemen after World War II. And there's a proliferation of these materials. from the subfloors to the walls to the roofs, and everything in between. And an important thing that was happening in this building material rocketing through the home construction world was that it also was de-skilling the labor force, moving from often from more bespoke custom home building to rapidly built, lower skilled uh, housing construction. It also dramatically reduced the number of nails that was needed in a home. And so in the mid-century in the US and other parts of the world as well, um, there's a radical shift in what an what an indoor atmosphere looked like, where there's a huge increase in a bevy of petrochemicals that were all off-gassing slowly from the building materials of domestic environments. And my inroads to this is a 250 square foot boxy trailer. In the US, manufactured homes, such as trailers, are the largest source of unsubsidized affordable housing. So 20 million people normally live in trailers and manufactured housing. But after Hurricane Katrina, the most costly natural disaster in US history, trailers just like this, these small travel trailers, were used both in front of homes and also in larger group sites to house those displaced by Hurricane Katrina. And these housing units quickly became infamous for having extremely high formaldehyde levels. So even though the average American home has enough formaldehyde in it to cause irritation at the very least, and manufactured housing in general has often 2 to 4 times the ambient formaldehyde load of conventional housing because manufactured housing uses more engineered woods and has less ventilation. These trailers were the worst of the worst because they were built on federal contracts, often by people who didn't build housing. And so the formaldehyde levels were just off the limits or off the sky high. Sorry, words are hard in the middle of the night. Um, and so this is probably the largest formaldehyde exposure in our species history. And the federal government was trying to wash their hands of the liability, so they took them back after a year or two of exposure to hurricane victims, and then put them on lots like this, where they sat for years until they were quasi-legally resold across the country. And so I spent a couple years as a on a 2-year road trip, essentially going to trailer parks across the country, talking to people who unwittingly bought toxic housing. Um, so oftentimes I would just go and collect stories as an ethnographer, but I also collaborate with analytical chemists to test the formaldehyde levels in people's homes. So this is actually the Oklahoma home that the opening shot of that plywood wall was from. And oftentimes there'd be sick children and sick adults, and people were sort of trying to figure out what exactly is going on. And I guess I don't, I can won't I think now is probably the moment to maybe open it up for a second and talk about what the qualities of a new smell might be for you, because for the trailers, when I talk to people all over the country, these toxic trailers, the primary reason that people said they bought these trailers was because they smelled new. Um, and so I just wanted to take a moment to talk with y'all about what smells new in your living spaces. Maybe we could just take a minute or two and stop sharing for a second. And I know being first is hard. Yeah.
It's interesting that you frame it that way because at least in the North American context, we also have this like expression of a new car smell, you know? I mean, it's not related to housing, but it's even like I think you can even buy air fresheners for your car that are
Hmm.
like the smell of newness or something,
Oh,
which is
absolutely.
fascinating. Yeah, yeah. Does
And
anyone want to? Oh, sorry.
No, no, please, please, please.
Just to say, open it up. Who wants to talk about different smells in your particular environment that you're aware of?
I mean, I'm happy to speak. Hello, I'm Amelia. I was just thinking I've just moved into like a new house. So for me, everything smells different. But I was thinking one thing that I feel is like a signifier in some ways of different homes is the detergent that you use on like fabric. And because there's so much fabric in housing. But I don't know if I'm misinterpreting your question, because for me that's like a new smell rather than a smell of newness.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. A smell that's new to you as you've changed where you live.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, super interesting. This is exact. There's no wrong answer. I'm just trying to, you know, seize the opportunity to see what feels like a smell of newness or a new smell in the places where you rest your head.
Mhm.
I've even been thinking about like things that I think were previously encoded as a negative smell. For me personally, have been recoded in a different way. I'm thinking of like, okay, I have an apartment in Berlin, so if I do composting, it's like a bokashi system, you know what I mean? So there's like fermentation going, but I always have this like thing in the kitchen collecting the scraps that I would have just tossed before. And the smell would have, I think, been registered as a bit abject, especially in the summer at certain moments. But it's gradually having a different it's signifying differently. Which is interesting. I mean, it's not like completely rotten things because a bokashi system keeps it like a bit, modest, but nonetheless, to have those um, smells of some sort of composting process like in the environment, which would have been totally pushed outside or in the trash, is it's a new smell that has changed like a change signifier.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I was I was also thinking of not very particularly the won't be the answer, but I was also thinking of the absence of someone generating a very new smell, because that opens up the space in a way that non-inhabitants of the space generates a different kind of smell.
Thank you. Maybe one or two more. Just there's no wrong answers. Would just love to hear from you. Also happy to, if you want to drop it in the chat and we can keep it moving, that's also okay too. Whatever y'all prefer.
We're counting on the folks in Europe and India who are on sane hours to join in.
I'm not so good at answering questions like this, so I think I'll just keep it moving and you can keep thinking
Okay,
about it.
for
It's
sure.
also possible that I didn't pose the question um, super well to begin with.
I was also thinking of paint because
Mm,
I mean the way it burns the eyes, and so it goes beyond the smell. In fact,
mm,
what is happening nowadays is that there's stubble burning outside. And so while sleeping at night, there is again a different kind of burning, and you can't breathe, and yeah,
mm,
that all of that is going on.
mm. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a great way to segue back in. Um, in the US, there was a shampoo that said that was being advertised for a while, saying that the tingle means it's working, and maybe the sometimes the like the burning sensation that accompanies a particular new smell are also part of the sensorial bouquet. And I think it's particular to the, the late industrial chemical bouquet that we're all sort of like sensorially grappling with. Um, and so exactly what Patricia was talking about earlier is this idea of a new car smell is a dominant sensory idea, not only in North America, but across maybe a lot of the Anglophone world at least. And this is a new concept also in this World War II moment when there was an explosion of petrochemical products entering entering the market. And so on the left, you see in 1946 advertisements that were sort of focusing on the sensorial engagement with cars, were focusing on like the smell under the hood and the squeaks of the engine. And by 1948 on the right, you can see that the sensory um, focus in advertising about cars shifted to being about the cab experience. And this advertisement on the right was one of the first times I ever saw the idea of the new car smell being used in print. And so the idea of the new car smell began by advertisers in the automotive industry as they were increasingly use plastics and resins and adhesives in the cab that they're trying to explain to the consumer but also sell. And then, later on in the 50s, they're also trying to expand the car market to women. So using women's liberation as a, emergent market to try and sell cars, not just to the male, to a male breadwinner, imagined breadwinner, but also to women as well. And in this time, they were really focusing on the cab experience, the textiles, and particularly this new car smell. And the new car smell um, is so potent that there are colognes that make you smell like your car. Mustang has a cologne. There's a in Spain. There was for a while at least a section in the classified ads in the newspapers where it was they're selling cars. They'd sell new cars. They'd sell used cars, and there's a special section for used cars that smelled new. And because they'd be sprayed with a little bit of cologne. And across the world, I've seen particularly some research in China that there's more interest in the smell of synthetic leather than leather itself. And this is part of the way that the scent concept, the new car smell, has traveled the world, sort of aesthetically valuing exposure. And so the smell of the new car smell is the smell of toxic exposure. And this is what people were smelling when they were buying these homes. And it was entirely because of this scent concept of smell being indexical of exchange value that people were buying toxic homes. This was the largest cash outlay that basically any of the people I talked to had ever done. And they ended up using their senses to make these purchases. And that purchase was more often than not killing them. So people were using bodily knowledge to understand what was happening to them. This is a photocopied popular epidemiology of someone in Nebraska taking pictures of their dog as it was getting sick and having seizures and eventually dying. But people were also seeing how their sense of taste was skewing, that their mobility and proprioception was becoming more fragile, and they were moving through the world differently. And so there's all of these subtle subclinical ways that people were understanding the wounding that their bodies were experiencing when they're encountering these toxic domestic environments. Um, and so I had a sort of a positivist vision at the time to try and use the analytical chemistry tools available to me to test if their homes were indeed toxic. In this middle picture, some collaborators and I were building a website to have manufactured housing inhabitants talk to each other and compare their bodily symptoms so people could use their bodily knowledge collectively to suss out the kinds of exposures they were having, and then use bacteria in the root systems of common plants to metabolize toxic formaldehyde. So this is sort of the bevy of multidisciplinary tools that um, we were developing. Um, I won't get too much into the sensors that we have made and are making, But more often than not, people would be buying sensors themselves to try and understand what was happening to their bodies as their family fell sick within their home toxic exposures. And so this is a picture that one person sent to me a couple years ago, where she bought a low cost real time formaldehyde meter, and the levels that this represents, the numbers aren't so important, are extremely high, so high that if I was in this space, I'd probably pass out in the matter of half an hour. I've never experienced an exposure at this high of a level, and I've experienced exposures that have put me to sleep. So, um, basically, the issue I think with a lot of these low cost sensors, a lot of the low cost ways that people are trying to understand, very rightfully so, what's happening to their bodies and their families, are basically predatory inclusion in the quantification of toxic environments. So people want to be able to understand what's happening to their bodies in authoritative ways, and those tools are usually expensive. And so they're excluded from that kind of authoritative knowledge practices of atmospheres. So they buy the cheap one, and the cheap ones are often predatory. They are basically random number generators, causing people to deeply freak out. And Yeah, this is a huge problem in a variety of ways in environmental justice situations, where sometimes I'll come to a community trying to offer tools, and already like traveling salesmen have come and tried to sell fake tools to them already, and they're like, no, 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 we already understand your deal. People who are not from here, you're just trying to scam us. So there's a lot of problems in the world of trying to authoritatively sense beyond one's body. But one of the things that we were doing, maybe in a more of a design sense, was we were trying to develop systems of remediation using the bacteria found in common plant roots. So we were pulling air essentially through the rhizosphere. Rhizosphere is the sort of microenvironment that every plant cultivates, and there are often bacteria in there that see the carbon in formaldehyde and use it as a food source. So they're breaking down the bonds that make up formaldehyde and are thriving on it. So the things that can make human bodies unravel can be feasted upon by the bacteria that's often found in common plant roots. And so this is something that was first developed by NASA, because NASA found out that sealing rocket fuselages is a great way to poison your astronauts. And so they're interested in creating um, less hostile space environments. And that research was done in a small town in Picayune, Mississippi, where there were also a bunch of FEMA trailers. So I visited another home. This is the image on the right, in Picayune, Mississippi, that was a former FEMA trailer. And that was where I did my first prototype, just down the road, basically, from where this technology had been developed in the 80s. And here, sorry, this is a little bit, I guess, slightly graphic. Here on the left is an image from a family that used it. They were having a lot of lesions on their legs, and having a lot of cognitive issues before using it. And this is an after shot where it's hard for me to tell exactly what's happening, but the family attested to their lesions and dermatological issues getting better within a month of using the remediation system, and also a lot of reduced cognitive impacts. And so I developed some open source plans with this French designer named Christophe Guérin, and we put them online on a website that's now defunct called publiclab.org, and did iterations of this plant air purifier all over the world. So this is Bengaluru. These are high schoolers in India that were building this plant air purifier. This is Christophe's uh, designs for how to make a mass-produced version of this like bespoke DIY tactical device. And then here's some folks in China also developing and iterating on this design that we put out on the internet. There are other ways to try and cure toxic issues. Um, one being regulation. And so in the US, the Toxic Substances Control Act, or TSCA, is the largest, it's like sort of the backbone toxics regulation in the US. And the first time it was ever changed was for formaldehyde. And it was entirely changed for formaldehyde because of sure, there may be a question in the Q&A about explaining how the plant air purifier works. Okay, I'll try and do it and also try and keep keep us moving at the same time. So you can also just check out the designs on publiclab.org. I think it's up. The website's a little slow right now. It's being run out of a basement server at MIT because the organization has ceased funding during the pandemic. But basically how it works is you clean off the soil from a plant that you buy in the store, or you cultivate on your own, or you pluck from your friend's garden. And we try and get rid of the soil, one, because the soil can harbor a bunch of different fungi, and that those fungi could cause health impacts. And then we put sort of like a stone, usually a stone substrate, and then also the stone substrate allows for better air diffusion through the system. So getting rid of the soil gets rid of some of the bad uh, fungi, potentially viruses too, and also allows for greater air movement through the root system. And so then the roots sort of cultivate a nice little bacterial ecosystem around them through like what they're exuding and what they selectively kill off in terms of bacteria. And it's a hydroculture growth medium that we use. And then basically what happens is water gets sucked up through here, but it's not submerged in water and it doesn't have soil. And then we took a standard aquarium pump and pump air through the root system to increase the diffusion of air through, basically increase the exposure of air to the bacteria. And that allows for more formaldehyde to get chomped up by the bacteria in the root system. And so by putting this hose from the aquarium pump into the roots, you increase the metabolic potential of the system by upwards of 100-fold. And so if you're just relying on like wind or ambient movement of air in an indoor environment to move air through the plant roots, that's not going to happen very fast. So the small change in how air is exposed to this microenvironment around the roots is really at the core of sort of trying to re-engineer domestic ecologies. I can also explain it more in the Q&A, but that's good for now. I will just say that the first ever and the largest revision of the backbone toxics legislation in the US happened around formaldehyde, and it happened explicitly because of these contaminated trailers that happened after Hurricane Katrina. And also, it's a deeply regressive regulation that I would say ensures continued toxic exposure of the poorest people because it doesn't regulate the quality of indoor air. It only regulates the materials, and different material or the same materials can be assembled into very different spaces with different air quality. So if you use this like the same materials of engineered woods to build a big palace, giant home with good air circulation, the indoor air quality is going to be better. If you use those same materials to build a small trailer, with low ventilation and almost exclusively engineered woods, and very small footprint to diffuse and reduce the amount of formaldehyde in the air through dilution, you're going to have a toxic home. So this is sort of the shortcomings of imagining regulation as a way out of these kinds of toxic exposures. Regulation, and it regularizes exposure. That's sort of the goal of it. And we have deep issues in North America with a permission to pollute system. So regulations are basically just giving licenses to pollute rather than really focusing on stewarding health. And so how do we get rid of this chemical? This chemical formaldehyde here, you can see it comes from methanol, which comes from natural gas, which is methane. And so we get a lot of natural gas for free when we're searching for oil. Um, and that's what makes it so affordable, because it's often a freebie that's sitting on top of the oil when people are going to go drill for oil. And so it's hard to argue with free, is what an industry chemical engineer said to me when I was trying to imagine a world where our domestic environments, our shelter is not the seat of exposure. And this goes back a long way. You can see from the very beginning of understandings of where formaldehyde comes from that it's always come from this particular source from methane. This is the old time diagrams about how chemicals related to each other. And so I started working with an artist. I don't know if is Sasha Engelman going to speak in this series. I saw that she was featured a few times in the bibliography.
Yeah, and unfortunately she was unavailable, but she's close to our hearts. Let's just say this. Her and Sophie
So
Dyer um absolutely been very influential, and a lot of the students have really taken to a lot of the texts that have been in the bibliography. So unfortunately she was not able to join us, but in our atmospheres, in our intellectual atmospheres, you could say.
okay, that's excellent. So I'm not, taking any of her territory, which is good. So Sasha and I have both worked with this artist named Tomas Saracena, who's based in Berlin, on this project called the Aeroscene Project, which is really trying to imagine a future that's not run on petrochemicals through showing how amazing the power of omnipresent and feeble solar energy is that isn't converted into electricity. Um, so this is not our dominant vision of like a green future that relies on electric cars and lithium ion batteries, but this is sort of about meeting the sun where it's at and using it to do wildly amazing things like lifting this person in the White Sands Desert. And the White Sands Desert in the US is where the first atomic bomb was tested. And so this is arguably, one of the beginnings of the Anthropocene, where this radiation was broadcast across the world. And in the White Sands, you can also think about a future history of the beginning of solar transportation by these solar balloons, which are basically just envelopes that get heated by the sun. And then we we map the atmosphere in 3D for 30,000 feet, and you can imagine there are different wind directions at different altitudes. And so if you can go up and down in these solar balloons, you can catch and design the wind currents to take you exactly where you want to go, which is a very different way of relating to the atmosphere, and a way of relating to geophysical forces that allows you to go where you want to go, but by calculated submission. And so that's sort of like the ethos that I come to this project with. Um, and if you go all the way back, that's sort of the answer to formaldehyde is not just like remediating in the home, litigating and making policy at the federal level, testing at the home, but thinking about how we got formaldehyde from natural gas, from a petrochemical global infrastructure. And if we make that petrochemical global infrastructure undesirable, we get to stop fighting the nightmares and sort of move towards this dream world of a different metabolic imaginary, which this solar balloon project is. Um, and so here's a picture where we went to the COP21 conference in Paris, and see that these were some of the solar balloons floating up in the Grand Palais, which I think is this like, the Grand Palais is this like colonial and um, this, monument basically to a certain era and a certain kind of technology and a relationship to the environment where you're just building ways to hold the environment in abeyance. And these solar balloons were sort of chomping at the bit to actually explode through the roof of the Grand Palais because they kept on getting hot. And so we had to deflate them in order to keep them from blowing through the roof. But I think that would have been the ultimate sort of symbolic gesture to imagine uh, a radically different future where petrochemicals are not the assumed feedstock for how we hold together our world. And so, yeah, you can see it sort of haunting the specter of the electric car down here. This is like the current kind of green future that we're being sold of electrification. I have an EV, like that's a stopgap solution in some way. But really, they're leading us towards a path that's maybe not so dissimilar from the petrochemical present and past that has led us to these issues. So I think I'll probably end there. Thank you. And I'm happy to take questions or get out of your hair or um, talk about the things that I spoke way too quickly about. Um, whatever you
No, that
prefer.
was, thank you so much. That was so rich. Yeah, and incredible, and just a really wonderful way as well to see how you start from this particular chemical, and then I think it's just even at a meta level, trying to understand your research process of seeing how it tracks through a 1948 advertisement, through to like its connection to natural disasters, through to policy and so on, and just like as a kind of methodology, incredibly inspiring to think about different locations, different uses, different like practical applications, and different sensorial cultures that are sort of all entangled with this particular chemical. I mean, I will never think of formaldehyde again in the same way. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, of course, we open it up for students. So Amelia, you have a question.
Yeah, I do. Is there time? Okay, great. Um, I wanted to ask, Nick, thank you very much for your talk. But what do you think about this link between invisibility and toxicity, and particularly how the presence and maybe the awareness of this chemical? I know that we can, yeah, well, we smell it. Maybe, yeah, our awareness of this chemical becomes present with its interaction with our bodies.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I have a slightly cynical take, and so I apologize. If it's cynical, we can just blame it on the time of night. But I I think that there's significant problems with how we imagine change happening, not only in environmental struggles, but in all kinds of like insidious structural discrimination. And I think there's a dream, there's a hope that um, we can make the invisible visible, and that will be what punctures political inaction or social lack of mobilization. And I think, I come from the social sciences, and I think particularly the social sciences and the health sciences are infatuated with the idea that we can document this invisible thing, that we can, in creative practice, maybe narrate this invisible specter, and that there will be a representation enough that things will somehow change. And I believe that that is important, and we're going to stay struggling, and we're going to be doing it at the same time as that it's going to fail. that this theory of change uh, guarantees sameness because we are falling prey to what I call an eventfulness myth. And so I believe absolutely that you're right, that chemicals are cruddy, corrosive, invisible, slow acting, all of these things that make it harder to represent, harder to conceptualize. Um, but the people that make decisions know how bad these things are. Um, there is enough evidence already. We know we know the badness, and so I am very wary um, of imagining that we can document the badness enough that things will change. And we see that also like in police brutality in the US. Like, are we going to get you know, the most egregious like cell phone video of something terrible happening and will that actually change? Um, and and so that's why I see the necessity of projects like the Aero Scene. I see the necessity of like of designers to imagine a future that makes the problems obsolete. Because I think that a lot of these like adversarial modes of change that I'm locked into, I'm still doing them. I think that these are they're necessary but insufficient. And so that's why I really believe that like Tomas, when he brought me into that solar balloon project, like truly saved my life. Because I was just in the environmental justice trenches. I was like quantifying exposures. I was qualifying exposures through collecting stories, and it was feeling bleak. And so I find such joy in the solidarity of like running with impacted communities and like doing everything I can to leverage the authority of science to corroborate the voices of those most impacted at the same time as I know that's not going to be it. And so that's why like I really turn to folks like y'all that are, really like alter engineering is the phrase I never got to, but was in the title, like really designing a different future. And I feel like, it's not the engineers that know how to do that because they set their scope at the smallest level. If there's engineers here, I'm sorry. but but oftentimes engineering, you know, sets the problem so small that yes, it's solvable because it's so small, but it doesn't do anything. Um, and I think social scientists set the problem so big that it's inoperable that I really think that designers are uniquely poised, designers and artists are uniquely poised to be thinking about ways of shifting subjectivities, which scale so much faster than a technology, and shifting relationships between between people and the environment. And I think that's, where I invest my long-term hope. I have short-term hope in like solidarity, in mutual aid, in remediation, and long term, I think it's on the folks in this room to really start re-engineering the systems that make our world. Um, so yeah, that's sort of my a little stump speech on that. It's a great question.
No, that was really great. Thank you so much for the discussion. You've prompted a lot of ideas in my head, and yes, it is. It's nice to hear that you have faith in us in the creative community to kind of pose a step forward.
Absolutely. Counting on y'all. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because we've been speaking a lot over the years in the department about let's say the limitations of an awareness only strategy, right? As if sort of activism or related to a myriad of issues is related to sheerly, to mere, if people know, then, there's a kind of assumption that there'll be this kind of naturally occurring causal repair work done. And I think it's interesting you showed the the Grand Palace in Paris, because I'm thinking of the W.E. Du Bois intervention there for like the Paris World Fair, where he was the first to show the data. This is like all the data imagery or data visualization that we're so used to in our vernacular. He basically invented as applied to the plight of post-emancipation Black America, which was quite radical at the time because, of course, in that expo you have human zoos literally beside this type of intervention. And there's documents where he was talking about, he had the faith that the sheer informational transmission of the plight would be enough. And this was a medium to do so. And when that obviously failed, became much more uh, creative or looking for other ways to move beyond that awareness only strategy, realizing that it was it was insufficient, necessary but insufficient, as you were talking about.
I did not know that that happened there. I'm from Georgia, and I think about W.B. Du Bois coming back from uh uh, or he was headed to I think a government office to present some of his case back in Georgia.
Mhm.
And there was a lynching that had happened. And there's a lynch mob that was sort of walking by him with like a uh and I that's where I think about um the failures of evidence and this like inability um for logic to cut through, in those cases, sadism.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't necessarily have a word for the everything on I don't know if it's global sadism or not. I think it's probably I think it's maybe that's definitely too simplistic to understand our global issue. But yeah, that's super helpful, and that's going to go into the book. So thank you for making that connection. It's not one that I was aware of or knew. So that's perfect. Thank you.
Arun, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for this wonderful insight on this invisible toxic this thing. But I just wanted to have your comment on the, the legal cases against Roundup in the US. I believe there are something like 160,000. And at the same time, in India, we also use the same chemical Roundup in massive scale, but we don't have any. I don't. I cannot recollect any legal cases in India. So I just wanted to see the scale. In the US, there are about 160,000 legal cases against Roundup company or the chemical. But at the same time, in countries like India or any other countries, hardly any legal cases. So uh, I just wanted your insight on this. Um,
Uh, are you asking about the how to think about the difference in legal recourse?
yep.
Yeah. So I think it's a good question, and I think it's sort of a similar answer to the last question in some ways. Um, in the research, I didn't talk about it, but I spent a good while as a law clerk in what was then one of the nation's largest toxic tort trials, which was tort in the US just means claiming damage for harm. And so the glyphosate cases are likely tort cases as well. Um, and long story short, the chapter on that is called the fantasy of accountability. And there are many cases. There's some cases that have broken through and gotten large settlements. But those spectacular successes and sometimes the spectacular failures really distract from the common experience of these mass courts, which is everyone gets paid but the plaintiffs. So these in the US, these lawsuits, they pay a dramatic amount of money to the lawyers if they win. The healthcare providers get a bunch of money, especially um, the expert witnesses that are being paid $600 an hour, $800 an hour. And when the payouts do come, they're often paltry. And so I think it's like a very American vision of how justice happens. But and I grew up assuming that like America was a hyper litigious country and that we were too litigious and we were suing each other about frivolous things. But as I got into the research, I also found that we actually just live in a dangerous country and things are not regulated. And there's many fewer lawsuits than there are like injurious corporate harm. And the idea that people are just sort of suing each other left and right that I grew up with in Georgia was like it's a conservative imaginary that's been foisted on us. And so people in the FEMA trailers that were living in these toxic homes, they had a 70,000 of them got together and sued. And I think, yeah, I'm just remembering one person who ended up dying of his cancer that he got in the FEMA trailer. Um, and after he died, his widow got a check for $40. Um, and also other people who are trying to get checks, they were getting the checks in the wrong names. And so everyone thought that the money that was being paid to them was actually they didn't deposit it because they thought it was part of like a fake check scam. And so when justice comes in the form of money, but then people think it's actually another scam and fraud, that's just sort of indicative it's indicative of the false hope of this kind of litigation. And a lot of these lawyers view themselves as making fast policy. And that's what these lawsuits do is fast policy. Um, but I remain somewhat cynical of accountability and justice happening. I'm definitely gonna like I consult for these kinds of lawsuits all the time, and I'm an advocate of them happening at the same time as more often than not, these are not the like the stop gaps or these are not the like the defenses that we need against the corporate and state harm that is proliferating, not just in the US, but across the world. So, in some ways, I don't see the lack of lawsuits in India as being demoralizing. Of course, it's easier for me to say, um, but I really would turn to, yeah, social movements as being a more effective way to try and battle these issues. I recently reviewed a book on glyphosate by Vincent Adams that I found to be particularly helpful in understanding the ways that the science has been manipulated over time. Um, but it's a great question. I think I didn't do justice to it because I don't know the full context of the way that American petrochemicals have innervated the South Asian ecosystems.
Thank you.
That's a whole topic for that's a PhD seminar there. But I'm just mindful of the time, also for you, Nick, to hopefully get some rest and just to also because we do have some other guests as well, but I think if we close it out, at least this time it's like a late night for you and you can still catch some rest. So I just want to, give an immense amount of gratitude for joining us in this really challenging hour, and also through a bit of sickness and exhaustion. It was just incredibly rich. I feel so awake now with a lot of notes, and a lot of points, a lot of even terminology. I can tell you're working through it in a book format because you tend to like find linguistic brackets to explain it. So I really look forward to diving in more detail with the students, and also to kind of think about what some of these terms may mean for our own practices and research methods going forward. So just incredibly grateful for your inputs and intervention, and we'll definitely be looking for your book in the near future. So just to say thanks, and if everyone wants to like just say a little like applause or however we express this through this medium in a quiet way. But yeah, I guess we do this. And yeah, we will take a short break and be joined with our other guests in the afternoon. And thanks again for everything. And we'll let you be go and rest to recover from the rather brutal results.
Thanks, y'all. Really an honor to be running with you and thinking with you. And I'm excited to see all of the things that y'all cook up. It's a really thoughtfully organized conversation. And I also want to apologize to the presenters in the next hour. I'm sorry for being rude and going to bed. I just gotta. So I'm sorry to miss out, but I'll look forward to watching the video later.
Great. Take care. So should we take maybe because we're running a little bit behind, we take 10 minutes instead of 15. Is that okay for everybody? So we'll join back or we can say, yeah, in 10 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. And then I'll hand it over to the other team for the moderation and introduction and everything. And very looking forward to being a spectator and listening. How are things on your end?
Good. Oh no.
Wow, with echo and everything. No, that was dramatic, Priyesh. I love it. It's like you have a DJ on a mixer every time you speak. It's wonderful.
Now all of us will mute because Suhasini is the one, guys. Suhasini is the one who will be moderating the next.
Okay.
So we have Niros and Shivali with us. They will be. Suhasini, Shivali is. Oh, मतलब we'll wait for 2 more minutes.
Good.
So, hello, am I audible? Yeah, so I will start.
Echo.
So I will start introducing Shivali, our next artist. Shivali Deka is from Assam. Uh, Her work reflects on the visuals and affective informing rural lifestyle and cultures. Her practice engages with the farming practices of the region, the vagaries of indigenous food and village life at large. A range of traditional and indigenous techniques have influenced the visual vocabulary of her work, especially the collective model of work often espoused by farmers and craftspeople. Her interpretations underscore the complex interplay between ecological health and conservation practices in ensuring the survival and coexistence of in their natural habitats. So this segment will actually be like a conversation. So Shivali will talk about her works to me, and I will be translating them because she'll talk in Hindi, and I'll be translating them for everybody. Um, yeah, I'll just share my screen.
First of all, very warm welcome, Suali, and thank you so much for for moderating and translating. It's so wonderful to have you here. So I'll let you take over.
Yeah, Shivali, please start कर सकते हैं.
Next slide. Yes. No, hello, I'm Havali from Assam. मैं बेसिकली फार्मर हूँ एंड आर्टिस्ट. ये मैंने ड्यूरिंग माय मास्टर्स मैंने शांति निकेतन में किया था कम्युनिटी किचन. कम्युनिटी किचन इज ए emphasize sharing knowledge, their material techniques and food habit. वो कैसे मतलब एक्सचेंज करते हैं, कैसे वो वर्क प्रोसेस मीन्स सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के लिए वो कैसे वहां पे रहते हैं, कैसे वो जुड़ते हैं. तो उसका ही एक ये कम्युनिटी किचन का एक प्रोजेक्ट था. मैं ड्यूरिंग पेंडेमिक इसको मैंने बनाया था. कम्युनिटी किचन जो संथाल कम्युनिटी है उनके साथ मिलके एक मुझे रेसिडेंसी मिला था. तो वहाँ पे जो रेसिडेंसी में मुझे जो काम करना था तो वहाँ पे वर्कर आए थे. तो उन लोगों को भी क्योंकि वो लोग नीड था कि उन लोगों को जरूरत था कि वो घर बनाए, इसीलिए मेरे साथ काम करने आए थे कि ताकि वहां से पैसा मिले और वो जब जब वहां पे जाए फिर मतलब अपना घर वो किचन बना पाए. तो क्योंकि मैं ऑलरेडी किचन का एक मेरा प्रोजेक्ट पे बना रही थी तो मैं इसीलिए सोचा कि क्यों ना मैं उधर ही जाके उन लोगों को हेल्प करूँ, मेरे उन लोगों के साथ मैं काम करूँ उनका घर जाके। तो वो मैंने उन लोगों के साथ जाके ये काम किया था। आप नेक्स्ट स्लाइड देखो।
ये वाला।
हाँ हाँ हाँ, ये वाला। देन वहां पे उन लोगों के साथ जो मैंने काम किया था, उन लोगों से बहुत सारे चीज सीखने के लिए मिला। जैसे कि वो लोग कभी मार्केट नहीं जाते हैं, ऐसे घर बनाने के लिए हो या कोई भी चीज बनाने के लिए वो लोग मार्केट नहीं जाते। वो सब जो आसपास जो जंगल है, फॉरेस्ट है, वहां से वो लोग कलेक्ट करते हैं। इवन रोप भी जो बनाते हैं वो ग्रास से बनाते हैं, वेविंग करके वो लोग ये बनाते हैं। तो बहुत सारा चीज, जैसे कि मिट्टी मिट्टी के ऊपर जो मतलब कलर आता है वो भी नेचुरल कलर ही है। वो कोई भी मतलब ऐसे केमिकल भी कुछ यूज नहीं होता है, कुछ भी ऐसा यूज नहीं है। सब एनवायरमेंट से जो आए हैं, नेचर से जो आए हैं, उसी से ही वो लोग वहां पे मतलब अ, बनाने के लिए यूज होते हैं। और फिर ये इसका एक मेन कॉन्सेप्ट था कि मैं असम से बिलोंग्स करती हूँ। असमीज किचन का और एक संथाल किचन का एक मिक्सअप था। मतलब एक्सचेंज था। किचन का जो डिजाइन था, वो मीन्स संथाल लोग कैसे बनाते हैं, असम के लोग कैसे बनाते हैं, मीन्स असम के लोग अलग अलग तरीके से बनाते हैं, बट जिस कम्युनिटी से मैं बिलोंग्स करती हूँ वो कैसे बनाते हैं। तो हम दोनों ही मिलके वहाँ पे एक नया एक डिजाइन बनाए थे। संथाल एंड राजवंशी कम्युनिटी का मिक्सअप था वो। और लास्ट में हम लोग वहाँ पे फूड शेयरिंग किया था, जो फूड कल्चर भी हम लोग शेयर किया था। जो मेरे कम्युनिटी का जो है, फिर सांथाल का जो है, और दूसरे जो वहाँ पे ट्राइब्स थे, उन लोगों को भी बुला के हम लोग वहाँ पे फूड शेयरिंग किया था, कन्वर्सेशन था। तो वही एक इस प्रोजेक्ट का मेन था।
Thank you. So, in this work, Shivali is talking about her residency during masters in Shantiniketan, where she was in a village setting, and some people belonging to a tribe called Santhal needed like housing equipment and housing, like they needed housing and kitchens also. So they approached her and she worked with them in constructing a kitchen for them. And they used all like natural source materials from jungles nearby. And they did not like purchase anything for this. So soil, bamboo sticks were made to, kind of make an armature for the house and walls, and they would put leaves and soil to kind of stick them together, plaster them together. And also, this architectural, she compiled like two cultures together. So, where she is from, Assam, and Santhal region, where the tribe is from, she compiled these two uh, cultures together to make it seem like a very consolidated structure. And yeah, and this is a very sustainable architecture that she worked with. Shivali, next.
ये प्रोजेक्ट मैंने क्या था, टी ट्राइब जो है असम में, टी ट्राइब बोल के कम्युनिटी है जो असम का जो टी गार्डन है, उसमें काम करते हैं। जो ब्रिटिश कॉलोनाइज जो रूलिंग के टाइम उन लोगों को लेके गया था एस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए, टी गार्डन एस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए, इंडिया के अलग अलग पार्ट से लेके गए थे, अलग अलग प्लेस से लेके गए थे, जैसे बिहार, झारखंड, उड़ीसा, वेस्ट बंगाल, तमिलनाडु, आंध्र प्रदेश। ऐसे बहुत सारी जगह से उन लोगों को लेके किसी किसी को फोर्सफुली लेके गया था, कोई कोई इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट के लिए वो लोग गए थे, अपना पैसे के लिए गए थे, बस ज्यादातर लोगों को फोर्सफुली लेके गए थे। और उस टाइम जब वो लोग ट्रेवल कर रहे थे, बहुत सारे लोग ट्रेवल में ही डेथ हो गया था, बट फिर भी उन लोगों को फोर्सफुली लेके जा रहे थे वहां पे काम करने के लिए। बट वहां पे जाने के बाद वो लोग उन लोगों को लाइक एक से प्रिजनर के जैसा उन लोगों के साथ बिहेव किया। बट काम तो उन लोगों को करना ही पड़ेगा। बट उन लोगों को मंथली 5 रुपीज या 4 रुपीज ऐसे करके उन लोगों को मतलब सैलरी देते थे। बट वो ब्रिटिश तो चले गए, बट अभी भी उन लोगों के ऊपर वैसा ही मतलब होता है उन लोगों को। अभी असम में रखा गया है रीजन कि वोट बैंक के हिसाब से, कि वोट चाहिए उसी टाइम उन लोगों को, मतलब इसलिए रखा गया है। बट अभी ऐसा है कि वो लोग ना अपने अपने स्पेस में जा सकते हैं, अपने जगह पे जा सकते हैं, क्योंकि उन लोगों को पता नहीं है कहाँ से है वो लोग, कौन सा एरिया से है। और असम में भी ऐसा है कि अभी उन लोगों को ना ट्राइब, क्योंकि असम में भी उन लोगों को अभी जगह नहीं दे रहे, एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं उन लोगों को, टी ट्राइब को। अम, जैसे अभी 20% असम में वो ट्राइब्स है, बट उन लोगों को अभी 3% को ही अभी मतलब उन लोगों को रिकॉग्नाइज किया है असम गवर्नमेंट ने। बाकी जो 17 है उन लोगों को अभी तक कुछ फैसिलिटी नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है उन लोगों के लिए। और जो एजुकेशन भी उन लोगों का जो बागान के अंदर होता है, एमई स्कूल तक है। एमई स्कूल जो क्लास 7 तक आता है, तो वहां तक ही उन लोगों को मतलब स्कूल दिया है। बट वो भी वहां पे टीचर्स नहीं है, टीचर्स नहीं है, यानी हेल्थ का इशू बहुत ज्यादा है। हेल्थ के लिए उन लोगों को कभी मतलब हॉस्पिटल है जो प्राइमरी हॉस्पिटल होता है वो दिया है, बट डॉक्टर्स नहीं है वहां पे। फैसिलिटी नाम के बहुत ज्यादा दिया है, बट कुछ मतलब है नहीं वहां पे। नाम के लिए फैसिलिटी दिया है, घर दिया है, बट वो घर पे रहने के लिए पॉसिबल नहीं है। जैसे वाटर रिसोर्स भी नहीं है। वाटर रिसोर्स है पूरा 2-3 गांव में एक कुआं देंगे, बट वो भी पानी मतलब खा नहीं सकते, पी नहीं सकते वो लोग। ऐसे बहुत सारे इश्यूज है। और बट फिर भी वो लोग ना एक इतने सारे कम्युनिटी मिक्स होके वो लोग इतने अच्छे से रहते हैं वहां पे, हैप्पीली रहते हैं। अपना रिचुअल कल्चर अच्छे से हैप्पीली वो लोग मतलब सेलिब्रेट करते हैं। एक निगेटिव जगह पे भी रह के वो लोग पॉजिटिवली मतलब सरवाइव कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन लोगों को मतलब वो लोग खुद को मतलब मान लिया कि हाँ हम लोगों को यहीं पे रहना है, यहाँ से हम लोग कहीं जा नहीं सकते क्योंकि हमारा कोई जगह नहीं है। तो इसीलिए मैंने बिग ट्रैप एक एज ए मेटाफोर मैंने यूज किया था। जो फिशिंग ट्रैप है उसको एज ए मेटाफोरिकली मैंने यूज किया था। जो फिशिंग, जैसे फिश को पकड़ने के लिए हम लोग एक ट्रैप में ट्रैप करके हम लोग पकड़ते हैं, वैसे सेम उन लोगों के साथ भी वैसा ही हुआ था कि वो लोगों को ऐसे ट्रैप में वो लोग ट्रैप के अंदर चले गए, बट निकलने के लिए उन लोगों के पास रास्ता नहीं है। तो इसीलिए मैंने इसे एज ए मेटाफोरिकली बिग ट्रैप मैंने यूज किया था।
Okay. So thank you. So in this, she created this series of big traps. She called of these are sculptures made from these are installation sculptures made from like uh, bamboo, and she is talking about here like in Japanese gardens, tea gardens, people
नो,
usually.
आई एम नॉट जापानीज, assamese,
Sorry,
assam garden.
so sorry, so sorry.
Mm,
Sorry. She's talking about Assamese tea gardens where Britishers were in the when they colonized India, they took migrant workers to work from different states from India to work in these tea gardens, and she's working with this concept of this large like trap they had set for these migrant workers where they have nowhere to go and they're like forcefully brought here to work for these Britishers. And she's talking about the lack of economic development that they went through and the struggle they have been facing. Still, there are workers in that work in tea gardens that have limited resources, where there is no fresh water to drink, and their the living situation is compromised. And uh, she's creating this trap from locally sourced bamboo that's found in Assam a lot, and to showcase this entrapment where these people have nowhere to go now because they're in too deep in the system.
ये भी उसी का पार्ट है, फिशिंग ट्रैप। तो उसको मैंने एज ए मेटाफोर यूज किया था,
Yeah,
उसी का ही सीरीज है। हम्म।
she's used a fishing trap as a metaphor here. So she's created large installations showcasing a fishing trap where these migrant workers are the fish that have like no power to get out of this trap now.
ये एक स्पाइडर इंस्टॉलेशन है जो मैंने टी ट्राइब से जो उन लोगों से मैंने टी कैटल मैंने कलेक्ट किया था उनसे मैंने बनाया था लाइक जैसे कि स्पाइडर एक ऐसे ट्रैप बनाता है एक जाल बनाता है कि दूसरा इंसेक्ट उधर फंस जाए देन उसको खा सकता है लाइक जैसे टी ट्राइब के साथ हो रहा है तो वैसे एज ए मेटाफोरिकली मैंने इसको स्पाइडर को मैंने बनाया था इंस्टॉलेशन किया था यहाँ पे मैंने यूज किया है एल्यूमिनियम आयरन ऑब्जेक्ट एंड मोटराइज किया था एंड साउंड क्रिएट किया था मैंने यहाँ पे वीडियोस है मतलब आप see कर सकते
वीडियो दिखाऊं?
हैं। हाँ ज्यादा टाइम का नहीं थोड़ा है तो हाँ
So for this, I will be sharing Shivali's video. Oh,
आप पहले वाला भी एक वीडियोस है तो आप वहां से शेयर कर सकते हैं मतलब वो वीडियो भी कर सकते हैं जो फिशिंग ट्रैप का जो
इसके पहले
ये
तो पहले मैं वो वाला दिखा दूं।
ओके
You can't see it.
समझ नहीं आ रहा
अटक रहा है ना।
है
Um, yeah, I think we'll continue with the presentation now.
ओके
Sorry. Yeah, for this work, she collected kettles from people belonging from tea tribes who in the tea plantation sites. And she collected these old kettles from them and has created this like spider-like structure with them to showcase like this ability of spiders to create webs. And she's playing with this idea where the spiders generally make webs to, make like to entrap insects and to eat them. एंड शिवाली आप एक और बार थोड़ा सा बता सकते हैं इसके बारे में?
हाँ, नहीं, इसे एज ए मेटाफोरिकली मैंने यूज किया है, जैसे ट्रैप यूज किया है, ट्रैप का ही एक सीरीज है, तो वैसे ही इसको मैंने यूज किया था।
Okay, so this is in continuation with the Big Trap series itself. Okay, move on to the next.
हाँ, ये एक थ्री जनरेशन है, जैसे टी ट्राइब का ही थ्री जनरेशन है, जो मतलब मदर इन लॉ, डॉटर इन लॉ ऐसे है। तो उन लोगों से मैंने टी कलेक्ट किया था, टी कैटल कलेक्ट किया था। तो एक मुझे ट्रस्ट करके वो लोगों ने जो उन लोगों का इतना पुराना पुराना कैटल था, किसी का 40 इयर्स पुराना था, किसी का 50 इयर्स पुराना कैटल था, जो वहाँ पे हैंग है, वो मोटराइज है, वो 50 इयर्स पुराना कैटल है। एक को मतलब उनका हस्बैंड ने उनको गिफ्ट किया था आफ्टर मैरिज। तो वो मुझे दिया था जब मैंने मांगा था उनको, क्योंकि मैंने उनको नया एक उन लोगों को दिया, एक्सचेंज किया कि नया एक दिया और मुझे वो पुराना दे दीजिए। तो वो एक्सचेंज किया था हम लोगों ने। तो वही यहाँ पे मैंने तीन जनरेशन को दिखाया है, कैसे वो लोग मतलब वो कैटल को वो लोग एज ए मेमोरी वो लोग रखा है, क्योंकि किसी किसी को उसका मम्मी पापा ने दिया है, उनका पेरेंट्स ने दिया है, किसी को उनका हस्बैंड ने गिफ्ट किया है। तो उसको, क्योंकि एक टी कैटल जो है वो एक एज ए रिप्रेजेंटेशन है टी का, क्योंकि टी कैटल में ही सर्व करते हैं। मैं ज्यादातर जगह पे टी कैटल में ही चाय बनाते हैं, उसी को ही, इसीलिए रिप्रेजेंटेशन है ये, तो इसीलिए मैंने इसको कलेक्ट किया था। तो मैंने ऐसे एक इंस्टॉलेशन किया था।
तो टी का सिग्निफिकेंस इधर मतलब क्योंकि असम की टी प्लांटेशन भी बहुत फेमस है ना
हाँ
इंडिया
हाँ
में।
हाँ।
तो ये आपने सिग्निफिकेंस दिया है इतना।
समझ नहीं आया, दोबारा
मतलब
बोलिए।
आप टी केटल के साथ इतना काम कर रहे हो ना, तो
हम्म।
ये रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ टी का आइडिया कहाँ से आया आपको?
वो आया जहाँ से मैं बिलोंग्स करती हूँ, जहाँ पे मैं फार्मिंग करती हूँ, मेरा जो विलेज है, तो बस नियर बाई एक विलेज है, मतलब जहाँ पे टी गार्डन है, बड़ा सा डुमनी टी एस्टेट है। तो वो हमारे जस्ट 1-2 किलोमीटर के अंदर ही है। बट वो लोग जब आशा हमारे गांव के तरफ आते थे लोग, उन लोगों को ऐसे मतलब बोलते थे कि वो लोग दरवाजा बंद कर लो, बिकॉज वो लोग आए हैं कि वो लोग लोगों को खा लेंगे, बच्चों को पकड़ के खा लेंगे। तो पहले मुझे लगा था कि सही में ऐसा होता था। फिर धीरे धीरे जब बड़े हो गए, हम लोग स्कूल में पढ़ाई किया कि टी गार्डन क्या है, ऐसा पढ़ाई किया, तो धीरे धीरे समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं, वो लोग भी तो एक फार्मर है, हम लोग भी फार्मर है, बट डिफरेंस अलग है, क्योंकि हम वो लोग भी हमें अलग तरीके से देखते हैं, अलग नजर से देखते हैं, हम लोग भी उसको अलग नजर से देखते हैं। एक वर्ड यूज करता है जो हमारे वहाँ पे लोअर असम में उन लोगों के लिए गोंगोर बोलते हैं। ये गोंगोर एक स्लैंग वर्ड है कि वो लोग गोंगोर मीन्स लोगों को खाते हैं। तो इसीलिए उन लोगों से दूर रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो लोग डार्क कलर के होते हैं, थोड़ा सा मतलब हेल्दी नहीं है वो लोग, थोड़ा सा अनहेल्दी होता है। तो मतलब ऐसे है, तो इसीलिए क्या है, उन लोगों को देख के ही एक मॉन्स्टर के जैसा देखा जाता है वहां पे, कि मॉन्स्टर है, ऐसे वो लोगों को खाएंगे, ऐसे बच्चों को डरा के घर पे रखते हैं कि तुम लोग दूर जाओगे तो वो लोग तुम लोगों को खा लेगा, क्योंकि बट वो लोग भी फार्मर है, हम लोग भी फार्मर है, डिफरेंस बहुत सारा है। हम लोग जैसे हमारा फेस्टिवल सेलिब्रेट करते हैं, वो लोग सेम फेस्टिवल वो लोग भी वहां पे सेलिब्रेट करते हैं, बट वही डिफरेंस के वजह से धीरे धीरे मेरा आ रहा है कि मैं अगर उन लोगों को इंट्रोड्यूस करवाऊँ कि हमारे एरिया में कि हम और वो अलग नहीं है, सेम है, वो लोग भी ह्यूमन है, हम लोग भी है, वो लोग भी फार्मर है, हम लोग भी है। तो ऐसे ऐसे धीरे धीरे उन लोगों के साथ ज्यादा कनेक्शन आया। और ज्यादा मतलब इंटरेस्टिंग है उन लोगों के साथ। वो लोग अलग अलग जगह से आए हैं, बट वो लोग जो एक साथ मिल के एक कल्चर वो लोग खुद से बनाए हैं, एडॉप्ट किया है, असमीज कल्चर एडॉप्ट किया है उन लोगों ने, और एक दूसरे का कल्चर को एडॉप्ट किया है अपना, मतलब जो मीन्स जो आर्ट प्रैक्टिस है, फूड प्रैक्टिस है, हर एक चीज वो लोगों ने एडॉप्ट किया है एक दूसरे का। इवन लैंग्वेज भी वो लोग एडॉप्ट करके एक नया लैंग्वेज बनाए, क्योंकि अलग अलग लैंग्वेज है उन लोगों का। तो एक इसलिए नया एक वो हालांकि सादरी बोल के एक लैंग्वेज वो लोगों ने क्रिएट किया है, जिसके वजह से मतलब वो लोग एक साथ बात कर पाए, क्योंकि बहुत सारे वहाँ पे मोर देन 80 कम्युनिटी है, वहाँ पे ट्राइब्स है, नॉट ओनली ट्राइब्स, नॉन ट्राइब्स भी वहाँ पे है, बट वहाँ पे उन लोगों को सबको मिला के टी ट्राइब एक टर्म्स दिया गया है। हम्म।
तो अब मैं इनको बताती हूँ। So this work is titled Three Generations, where she is again motorized kettles here, and she got them from these three women here, belonging from three different generations. And these kettles are 40, 50 years old kettles, and that they have kept like very um, in a very nice, proper way, and they've preserved it. And although these kettles hold memories to them, when she asked for these kettles, they happily gave them to her, and Shivali also gave them a new kettle in exchange. And I asked her later on, why is she, um, working with kettles here? And she told me that she has a farm in Assam, and nearby itself there is a tea garden where these tea plantations are. And these workers there, whenever they would pass by her village, people would talk about their cannibalistic nature and would, kind of tell everybody to go inside their houses and fend for themselves. So she's working with this idea of why we are othering these people, and she wants to bring them together because in the end, both of them are farmers and they belong to the same species itself. So she wants to show that these people are same. And she's also, when she talked to them, she was fascinated with how diverse and complex their culture was, because these people are migrant workers and they have adopted because they have been here in Assam for too long, and they have adopted their culture to kind of inhabit themselves in the state. And she's kind of like, she finds it fascinating how they've clubbed together all their cultures and created a different language for themselves itself. So yeah.
Collected cattle. ओके, इसका ओके, ये एक मेरा ऑनगोइंग प्रोजेक्ट है, जो हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल के ऊपर है। जो हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल है उसके ऊपर मैंने इसको मतलब ये प्रोजेक्ट को किया था। ये आइडिया ऐसे आया, जब मैं जो टी गार्डनर है और टी ट्राइब है उन लोगों के बच्चों के साथ मैं जब उन लोगों को कभी पढ़ाने जाती हूँ, या मैं उन लोगों के साथ वर्कशॉप ऐसे कुछ ड्राइंग सिखाती हूँ, पढ़ाती हूँ, तब मुझे पता चला कि वो लोग इतना ज्यादा फार्मिंग वगैरह में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है उन लोगों को, बस खेलना है, ऐसे मोबाइल की एडिक्शन है, ऐसा है। तो मैंने उन लोगों को एक गेम के हिसाब से उन लोगों के साथ मैंने वेजिटेबल का इंट्रोड्यूस करने के लिए मैंने एक गेम उन लोगों के साथ क्रिएट किया था, खेला था। जैसे कि ट्रेडिशनल सीड जो है उसका नाम बोलती हूँ, एंड जो फील्ड है जहाँ पे मतलब फील्ड है वहां पे मैं वैसे ही ड्राइंग करके उसके ऊपर वो वेजिटेबल को मैंने मतलब लगाने दिया, ग्रो करने दिया। वहां पे ड्राइंग है बट वो विजिबल ज्यादा नहीं है, अच्छे से वो नहीं आया था। तो वैसे मैंने इसको किया था। इसके नेक्स्ट नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। हाँ, उसका ये जब थोड़ा थोड़ा बड़ा होने लगा था तो इसका ये इमेजेस है। नेक्स्ट। ये मेकिंग प्रोसेस है उसका। नेक्स्ट। ये हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल्स मैंने टाइटल दिया है क्योंकि जब वो बड़ा होने लगा ना, बड़ा हुआ जब वहाँ पे जो वेजिटेबल्स आने लगे, तब मुझे मुझे पता चला कि जो जहाँ से मैं लाया था वो लोग ये ट्रेडिशनल सीड बोल के मुझे हाइब्रिड सीड दिया था। जो एक इसको एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव के हिसाब से, कमेंट्री के हिसाब से मैंने इसको बनाया था, इस इंस्टॉलेशन को मैंने किया था। और जो छोटे जो फार्मर है, उन लोगों को, मतलब उन लोगों का जो फायदा नहीं होता है इस ये वेजिटेबल, हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल ग्रो करने के लिए। बट ये जो जो बिजनेस करते हैं वेजिटेबल सेल के लिए, जो मतलब जो फार्मर, जो जो इंडस्ट्री वगैरह इसको ग्रो करने के लिए जो ये करते हैं, वो हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल सीड बनाने लगे हैं। क्योंकि ज्यादा हाइब्रिड बनाने से ऐसा होता है कि बहुत ज्यादा ग्रो होता है, बहुत ज्यादा कम दाम में वो लोग सेल कर सकते हैं और बहुत ज्यादा मतलब सेल हो सकती है। तो उसके पर्पज में करते हैं। बट धीरे धीरे क्या है, जो छोटा जो फार्मर है, जो कम जगह पे खेती करते हैं, उन लोगों का बहुत दिन ब दिन प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है। और ऊपर से ये अनहेल्दी मतलब है, हम लोग खाते हैं तो इसको कंज्यूम करते हैं तो ये हमारा हेल्थ के लिए भी अच्छा नहीं है। तो इसी को ही मैंने कमेंट्री के हिसाब से मैंने इस इंस्टॉलेशन को किया था, हाइब्रिड वेजिटेबल्स।
Okay. So in this, she does a community work. This is an ongoing project for her, and she teaches children and plays with children in Assam itself. And she while she was engaging with them, she realized that these kids were mainly focused on playing on mobile phones, and they were kind of addicted to games on their phones. And so she incorporated a game where she would take traditional seeds, because she realized that these children were not really into their own knowing their vegetables and because how people farm there. And she felt like the knowledge was receding. And so she created this game where she would give them traditional seeds and would kind of draw on the sand what the vegetable would look like. And so here she's planted these vegetables with them. And she created this sculpture later on, when thinking that she had got a traditional seed. While the seed grew, she realized that it was actually a hybrid vegetable that grew. And this kind of uh, brought upon this sculpture that she made as a commentary on this concept of hybrid vegetables now being so proliferated in the market. uh, she's talking about how hybrid vegetables are now common, and people, because these seeds lead to more fast growth and profit. And so she is commenting on how unhealthy it is, and it's not that good for health also.
इसमें ऊपर कर दे। शिवाली,
यस।
शिवाली एक और प्रोजेक्ट देखकर फिर थोड़ा क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के लिए ओपन करें।
ओके ओके।
ठीक है। सुहासिनी।
आपको ये वाला
हाँ, ये हाँ ये मैं ये मेरा जो फिल्म है, मैंने ड्यूरिंग माय इनलेस रेसिडेंसी में मैंने किया था, मुंबई में। जहाँ पे मेरा रेसिडेंसी था, जस्ट ऑपोजिट साइड में एक संजय गांधी नेशनल पार्क है, जहाँ पे लेपर्ड रिजर्व, वो एक फॉरेस्ट है। और जस्ट जस्ट वॉल है एक, और इधर हम लोग रहते हैं। जब मैं वहां पे गई, जस्ट एक दिन में ही समझ आ रहा था कि वहां पे डॉग्स नहीं है, जैसे कि दिल्ली में हो या डॉग्स ज्यादा है, बट वहां पे कैट ज्यादा है बट डॉग नहीं है। डॉग मतलब 5 दिन में एक दिखाई देगा, ऐसे टाइप का था। तो मैं वहां पे जो वहां के लोगों के साथ बात करने लगी कि डॉग यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं है, क्या रीजन क्या है डॉग ऐसे। तो मेरा एक फ्रेंड ने मुझे बोला कि मुंबई में वहां पे बोरोवली में डॉग्स इसीलिए नहीं है क्योंकि वहां पे लेपर्ड आते हैं। लेपर्ड आके वहां पे डॉग्स को लेके जाते हैं, क्योंकि वो खाने का क्राइसिस है फॉरेस्ट के अंदर, क्योंकि दिन ब दिन वो फॉरेस्ट कम होता जा रहा है। उसको मतलब लोग अर्बनाइज कर रहे हैं, मतलब डिस्ट्रॉय कर रहे हैं, काट रहे हैं। तो उसी कॉन्सेप्ट में मैं इसको बनाया था, इफ आई वॉज ए लेपर्ड, मीन्स इफ आई एम ए लेपर्ड, तो मैं एक अर्बन और फॉरेस्ट को मैं कैसे मतलब देखती है, मतलब कैसे है, और डॉग की तरफ से और एक लेपर्ड की तरफ से। क्योंकि लेपर्ड एक फॉरेस्ट का एक रखवाला माना जाता है, उनको वर्शिप करते हैं। और डॉग ये ऐसा है कि हम घर घर पे डॉग को रखते हैं, और डॉग को पूरा अर्बन में एक माना जाता है कि वो दोस्त होते हैं, ह्यूमन का फ्रेंड है वो डॉग। और लेपर्ड को ये है इस मतलब लेपर्ड को फॉरेस्ट का फ्रेंड माना जाता है। तो वो दोनों फ्रेंड को एक, क्योंकि वो ऐसे रियल रियल में दोनों एक क्योंकि एक दूसरे को खाने वाले हैं, मतलब लेपर्ड उसको डॉग को खाते हैं। बट मैं इस फिल्म के थ्रू दिखाने जा रही थी कि अगर एक लेपर्ड और एक डॉग फ्रेंड बने तो उन लोग कैसे सरवाइव करेंगे, उन लोगों का जो हैबिट्स है वो कैसे एक दूसरे को शेयर करेंगे। तो इसी फिल्म के दौरान में वो दिखाने के लिए ट्राई किया। और लास्ट में एक वीडियो का एक क्लिप है जो मैं थोड़ा मैनिपुलेट किया हूँ, वो मतलब कलेक्टेड था। तो और ये मैंने जो शूट किया पूरा ड्यूरिंग जून जून को किया था। वहां पे मानसून का टाइम होता है, पूरा रेनी सीजन है। पूरा 1 मंथ मेरा, क्योंकि लेपर्ड को ढूंढना बहुत मुश्किल है, ये इम्पॉसिबल है। तो ऊपर से बारिश का मौसम था वहाँ पे, कंटिन्यू 1 मंथ का मेरा ये एक वीडियो था। ये मैंने फिल्म बनाया था, और इसमें मुझे हेल्प किए थे बहुत सारे लोगों ने, एडिटिंग में और शूटिंग के लिए।
तो वीडियो आपने वो छोटा करके रखा है क्या?
हाँ नहीं, मैं छोटा करके नहीं रखा क्योंकि उसको
अच्छा,
हम्म,
कोई बात नहीं, तो मैं समझ।
हम्म। नीचे थोड़ा फोटोग्राफ है, 2-3 फोटोग्राफ है जस्ट। हाँ।
नीचे ये
हम्म।
link।
नहीं नहीं, लिंक नहीं, हाँ नीचे फोटोग्राफ्स है, ये वीडियोस
ओ,
है, वीडियो है ये।
अच्छा, एक सेकंड।
हम्म, हम्म। क्योंकि 16 मिनट का वीडियो है ये, तो थोड़ा ज्यादा लंबा है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में उसका फोटोग्राफ है, 1-2 फोटोग्राफ है। हम्म, हम्म,
Okay. So, this is a film she had made during Inlag's residency in Bombay. And this was inspired by when she was living in Bombay. She was staying near Sanjay Gandhi National Reservoir. So, uh, there, yeah, so she realized that there were a lot less dogs than in Delhi compared to Delhi, and she began asking people why is that. So people replied that there were leopards around and they would eat dogs there. So you could see dogs like once in 5 days. So she got this idea that maybe she should like look for leopards and dogs in like together, and she directed this film as if she was a leopard. And the main reason for leopards eating dogs was that due to this rapid urbanization of forests now, the leopards are lacking their natural source of food. So they come out and eat these dogs. And yeah, so she directed this film as if she was a leopard, and she's kind of creating this narrative of how a dog and a leopard can be friends in harmony. So we can have like, yeah. Thank you, Shivali.
Thank you.
आप बोलो सर मैं फिगर आउट
Is
कर
it,
लूँ मैं कर लूँ
maybe we can have Niroz's presentation as well, and then question and answers maybe for both of them together. Meher is with us.
Yeah.
So Meher would be moderating for Niroz. Welcome, Meher.
Hi. So, Nirod
We can't.
Sarpati, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay. Hi, Meher.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah. Good. Hi, guys. Don't worry about that. But maybe I forgot some word in some sentence. You just help me. Don't worry about that. I'm explain some of my project. This is recently what I did last 10, 15 years. So let's start. Yeah. Okay. Let's
Yes.
start in my screen. Could you please share the screen? I'm sharing my screen.
Have you got permissions to do so?
One second. Hold on, please. Certainly.
Maybe I'll just make a little note to our students as well. I think we're running about 10 to 15 minutes, a bit over schedule, just to plan if you need to uh, leave at some point, then because of a scheduling conflict, then you have to. But just to let you know that we're running about 15 minutes over schedule.
Yes.
Niroz screen share हो
One
पा रही
second.
है?
One
अच्छा,
second.
ठीक है.
Maybe while Nirosh is preparing the slides, it was very interesting to note that in the prompts as a
I
on the webpage, both Niroj and Nick had provided smell or odor-oriented prompts, which was not planned, and it was a serendipitous sign from the curatorial heavens that this was a good pairing to have today.
Yeah, that was very interesting to see.
one second.
Niroz हो रहा है? कुछ मदद चाहिए हो तो बताना.
One second.
हाँ.
Yes, I got it. So yeah, I'm extremely sorry for that. I'm a little bit confused about that. So I'm sharing my screen here. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I'm sorry. So last 10 year, my practicing area is like landfill and dumping ground. So I did a night supervisor job in solid waste management in Delhi. Before that, I did different kind of job, art conservator and school teacher and something different. Like as different kind of job, I love to do that because I learn different kind of experience. So I joined MCD. So after that, my processing is start because when I joined MCD, as a night supervisor. I just explore the city. The city is very like, so Delhi is unpredictable city. But what you expect, sometimes you missed something. So it's like uncertainty because of migration issue and all things. It's like large scale of migrate people are coming and all these things. And when I saw this Tras mountain, it's landfill. Delhi has three landfill. One of them here marking is Valaswa, Gazipur, and Okla. Three of landfill is look like Delhi mountain, but it's trash landfill. It's like huge amount of trash producing Delhi. Sometimes the three of landfill is already dead landfill, because if it's dead, it's like they are not using that. We are not use that garbage. It's totally dead. Lastly, this putting the like three of landfill is more than 30 to 40-year old garbage in dump in there. Uh, it's like it's that garbage that's producing only toxic. Government trying to hide it and in different way, but it can't. It's out of control now. When I did a job, I have night supervisor. I went to landfill in daytime, and after that, I joined day supervisor. I'm collecting different kind of information about scam, politics, what exactly happened in land politics, and landfill labor. Something it's happened. What exactly? I'm like in the ghost kind of attitude in like toward my job. So I understand the actually what happened, right? Do you understand my English? Clear? Yeah. If any question, please ask me. So yeah. So because of that, I'm like exploring some like different project. It's like after I'm quitting my job in 2018. Before that, I'm collecting so many materials. So I'm trying to explore different kind of material and understanding city, what exactly happened in like landfill and landfill neighborhood, and did that project. I share you that project in the link. But recently I did a project which is related to Delhi air condition. Air condition. It's a Delhi air on pollution, all that related to that project, what I did it. So it's three of the landfill. One of the Okla landfill is here, and Gazipur landfill is here, and another landfill is Bhalaswa. See the how like it's more than 40, 45, 60 meter high, and that radius like they occupying more than like 50 meters each space that occupying, like more than 40 football pitch. It's one landfill. It's occupying more than 40 or 50 football pitches. And each year they occupying yeah, two, maximum 2 to 3 football pitches. It's like it's government already banned that things, and NGT also banned, but illegally dumping is starting. And so overnight they increase, sometimes they decrease, sometimes increase. The government introduce some different plan, but it's already dead landfill. The trash is already going to the toxic form. The leachate producing 1,000 liter of leachate, and already if you're thinking about if you're trying to occupy human territory, I was thinking it's a metaphorically, if you're thinking trying to let's occupy the human territory, you have to pollute it first air and water. Delhi air and water already polluted. I show you some images how to see right now that the the time is talking about the how air pollution in Delhi, water. Because when winter is started, the start like pollution is started slowly, and suddenly it's make a bubble of black, and everybody look like tired and depressed, and like we are living like what kind of city? Like it's only not only the landfill, it's a different kind of issues we are facing. We are like we are no our air is toxic and all these things happen, but we are surviving. We're trying to survive. This is the top of the landfill of Bhalasua and Gazipur. It's already banned for public because of when I was in night supervisor or in like job, or that was that time I have power to went to that space. Sometime I visited that space, but it's live risks. When I visited that landfill site and landfill neighborhood, the same time I feel like I'm like it's very exhaust and I found different kind of like um, a different kind of disease something and feel like very unhealthy because I have that immunity power to develop and smell power already I have developed. I understand the things what happened. But if someone goes to this project, is some people are went with me to visit that space landfill, but they are not able to visit because they smell and all things they can handle because I have that smell and I have that knowledge, I have that immunity developed to understand that how to visit that landfill. So it's very critical condition of Delhi and government trying to hide, but because of that is banned already three of the landfill. Right now landfill is like producing different kind of um, it's different kind of land produce of different kind of toxic air like methane, leachate, nitrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and other hazardous and radioactive waste. So yes, this is all are producing the one landfill, and after that it's come to the leachate. Already we are saw the another landfill in the sky. Delhi has another landfill, three landfill, but other landfill in sky. That's an invisible landfill. Like sometime when I was in job, though I thought it's a crown. Sometimes it's a feel like it's a crown of the city, and sometimes it was like host cave, and sometimes it's like spaceship. Landfill has that already landfill is become an empire. There is people are living more than 100, 200 family. They are lost his identity, lost his smell, lost his everything. The landfill giving new identity, new home, new things. They are like it's a landfill is an empire right now. It's a trying when someone going to landfill it's difficult to come back. The landfill is it's already a cave, already it's a empire. So it's a lots of story behind this landfill because it's a less time I can I'm just this is the condition of Delhi. This is India Gate. This is it's completely smog. And right now it's Yamuna is look like this. How to water pollution is like that. It's Yamuna. It's home. Because it's chemical deforestation. Chemical it's lots of factory things happen in dumping like connected to Yamuna. Because of that, it's in winter. Whenever winter is start, that Yamuna is forming foam. It's right now. It's Yamuna condition is like this. It's very depressing and very like and slowly it's the starting. It's slowly going different way. Condition to Delhi air pollution and this project will start. It's three of photograph of landfill area, and here is the landfill colonies like landfill neighborhood, JJ colony, and all this. And here is landfill to neighborhood. Those are will lived in landfill. There is a landfill, which is C. When you enter the colony, you see the how landfill occupied. And recently government said we are decrease the landfill, Valswa landfill. So thing is that they are decrease, but all the trash putting on their colony. Now colony level is low and the trash is filling all those blank area and those water sources and all this. And when rain has happened, and that rainwater going to that colony, and colony is floating like drain. It's all are toxic. This is all areas floating like they put the dump, put the landfill garbage like 30 or 40 or old garbage in all that area. It's very difficult when they are put that all garbage. The people said that feeling like very exhaust and burning his skin, and some children are going to die. And after that, those people are living like near the landfill, JJ colony and Bengali Basti. They have like gaining issue, different kind of disease, long disorder, and cancer, skin infection, sometimes they unknown death, unknown disease. Every day someone is dying, like unknown disease, because they are migrated. Nobody had noticed that. It's very dark condition of this. Mm. So recently, this is the landfill area. When storm happen or something happen, the landfill producing like dust is floating this area. It's normal days. It's not a winter time. It's a very normal days. It's happen in the landfill area. It's a landfill. When truck or some heavy vehicle going through the collecting garbage. So that's what's happened. It's like very bad. That we are like living very healthy. Sometimes I was thinking, yeah, our struggle is it's okay, but they they have several problems. Several problems in those are living in landfill, JJ colony and landfill neighborhood. There are lots of problems. It's like see, that's the home like very small. Then one room set, and they're living like very like very tough. Sometimes it's very depressed when you reach there. But you're thinking like where this place is actually in Delhi or somewhere. We live in Delhi or we call this capital or something. But there is like we were talking about that. Shivali was talking about tribe. I thought they are tribes. They're living like tribes. It's very depressing. They're very less home and yes, it's come to the point. So last 3 months we had a like a project with Delhi Art Breathe about Delhi air pollution, and it's a community-based project because I want to right now I'm coming to landfill neighborhood or I love to that project is because on ground truth is very like it's very rare on ground truth. If a if a visited on ground truth is very rare. Sometimes I was thinking it's like very depressing and very hectic to listen that story and all these things. So this project was started by collaboration with FICA and Delhi Art Breathe and Mahila Housing Trust and collaboration artist with Momita Basik is textile based artist from Calcutta. She helped me a lot to develop this project. So this project was started on Nandanagari, two part of Delhi. It's one part is Nandanagari and another part is Palaswa. It's a collaboration project. More than 40 women participate in that project. We are talking about this is the for more than 40 women participant in different field, including home-based worker, domestic worker, construction worker, waste picker, student, home worker, and labor. All are like women, those who are working in different sectors. So first project we have like planning like developing non-nagari. We having conversation and understanding the what happened exactly through the air pollution. But they because we know the what is the air pollution because their livelihood they are depend on like outside things, na? The like construction worker, daily wage worker, and home based worker. How do they understanding the trigger that um, this the like how to talking about the air pollution? It's very difficult. Uh, they have to understand what is air pollution. When we are having discussion with them, they are connected his personal and domestic life and social life. How to impact his personal life in domestic life. How to like they connect directly in like non-nagari participant. They connect that perspective. Personal life कैसे impact होता है? How to impact in personal life? They said we have a a little home. That's one bedroom home, one bedroom house. There is no window, only single door. They see this is the home. Hmm. This is the home. This is only one-sided home. They live like JJ colony, and those are living in like government gave them the house is JJ colony, Juggi Jopdi colony. They provided the shelter type of home. There is no only exist only that the door was like. So because of that, they feeling suffocation. There is no space for a park. Uh, the park is there is a park, but there isn't a park. You can't access that park because there are lots of illegal activities and the park is like I saw that park. It's park look like a desert. It's not a like park. It's like something else. Like there is some smoky was smoke up there and some very like. That tree was broken and park is super dusty and the land is totally it's dumping site throw the all the garbage collecting in colony and put in that park. So that is separate issue. And after that we had in conversation. So we're trying to develop the things why this air pollution is important for them to understand. In this is the first attempt to it's a community project and understanding how they are engaging and how they sharing the story in different ways. We had lots of we had collect lots of story and design that format how they are doing that project, how to involve that project, how to develop that project. Unfortunately, I'm repeatedly I'm visiting them their house and understanding how the pattern is developed. After that, this is like developing this project. So the part that project was display in community center, which was this is all are participating and the design I developed that design it's inspired by in home. There's a very little home. They organize very well and that very like I mean in their window is like door is very design based and dressing table and inspired by that form and designed by these things. So I'm collecting different like discarded rope and all these things collecting from factory side and there is this Delhi has a different textile factory. So I collected from them and developed that the story which is I collected from them and Momita also collected something different story how they are propagating how they are feeling how they are like what story behind the air pollution and developing we had discussion and after that we are developing this art form what the story this is Gehri Saas the title of story is Gehri Saas is the like um, is sometimes you like exhaust and feeling that let's like uh, like somewhere like a gehri saans, so deeply breathe, you breathe deeply, sometimes because of that title is come to that community. So this is the one person was the lady who's inside the home and with pet. This is the we are developing park, but they are describe our park is look like that. Our park is look like that, and we aren't develop our colony park, and there is some text in behind this park, behind this um, structure. What they tell story, we are developing these things. This is this is health issue. Sehri Hava, like what the air like city air. So what kind of city air, like title. And they're talking about several issue in like air pollution, health issue, and that saying we are protest, we are ready for the protest for air pollution and all these things. We are discussing how to protest. They said we are going to the build like community and like हम लोग साथ में जाएंगे और डेवलप करेंगे कैसे अवेयरनेस फैलाएंगे किस ऐसा करेंगे तो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट हाँ तो this one is like another thing is I'm collecting so many things in like in that space like water how impact different sources air pollution is counting the different sources how impact like soil water and photograph what I last 3 months what I collect from them. So I display all these photos and there is I made 2 videos. This is non-nagari display which is happen. There is related to air pollution and everything is talking about Delhi and personal, domestical and colony issue. How they are trying to explore. It's totally project based on the story, what they are sharing. They're sharing lots of story. It's a domestic something. It's like it's a lots of story I'm collecting. We made city chitti and they give some like text material. This is the book of the city chitti. So during this project, they like writing poem about himself, about herself, or about kid, about livelihood, about something what they are thinking about air and what they give to letter about city chitti. So and this project was displayed in Nandagiri and another project is displayed. It's unfortunately we are not able to display at Bhalaswa because of the government because it's very Bhalaswa's it's very sensitive zone because of the landfill. So we are unable to display because the government when we are planning for the display, the government and the MCD team was coming and they totally stopped that so and ban that so so it's not display yet. I make 2 videos. It's maybe it's open like open for public soon. So this one is like landfill issues. They're talking about 2 community. One of the those who are living in landfill and other are living in like little distance in JJ colony. Their conversation about what exactly landfill happened and all these things. So first conversation, they are like both are front to front sitting each other and developing and what they are thinking. They collecting all this garbage on in their side and putting that thing. They make the large scale of like cloth. And when it was like I made that display thing in Bhalaswa, but it's not happened. So I collected some the story in like Bhalaswa, so different story. When landfill is happen, like there is several issues like marriage. they're facing the marriage issue, one of the most important thing, water issue, marriage issue, health issue. There is several issue, which like what came to your mind, what issue that there is that issue in there. Death issue, marriage issue, home issue, domestic issue, rating, like property and all these things. There is sometimes they when they had discussing about the story and about that personal life, I collect some word. So I wrote it. आगे खुशबू है. आगे खत्ता है. खत्ता in the sense it's like it's a landfill. There is a landfill. There is some kind of segment in there, because when you enter the Bhaluswa and the dumping site and landfill site, you certain kind of smell. You feel that, and whatever you smell, you in your mind, and what you are like using deo or something lost in there. Only kind of smell you inhale. There is one kind of smell, like grass smell, which is very like you trying to understand which kind of smell is that, but you are unable. Because it's mixed of different kind of, and it's very dead. You feel like you are dead. And build like this structure, like when people go to enter and see, like it's metaphorically, it's like become a landfill, but it's not a like how to see the landfill.
Niroz,
Yes.
we're a little tight on time. Maybe
Yes.
we can open the conversation more in the question and answers. Last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's done. It's
Okay.
done. Yeah.
It's actually very interesting to see the project, because when
Yeah.
it was shown, like a lot of us were planning to come for the project, but we realized that it couldn't open for public because of the restrictions that came up.
Yes, because of that, it's like it's a government. It's very like it's playing a different kind of game. It's like three of the landfill. When you're talking about landfill issue and all these things, government suddenly someone is like insider. Some I don't know how the news is spread. Because sometimes I was very scared. I am a like I did a job in there. So if something is happen, they send me a legal notice. I'm so any time I must be arrested somewhere. Because I have lots of data. When that I have actually legal data in I'm collected. Suddenly I feel that I'm in life risk someday.
I think it would be nice to open it up for question and answers also. I was
Yes,
thinking
please.
of both the practices in terms of the position also, because there's always a negotiation in the position of being an insider of the community and the outsider of the community. And something that comes up with both the practices very well. Maybe we can open it up. नीरज अभी भी present हो रहा है.
Oh, sorry.
Presentation is okay, but
Yeah. So,
okay. Any questions? We can have it in chat. We can have it here. Thank you, Niroz. Thank you, Shivali, for presenting. We will continue with the question and answers.
yeah,
We
thank
have
you so much. I'm like I'm trying to explain in English because sometimes it's very hard. But it's not, yeah, I love to, So sometimes it's broke, sometimes if you are not able to understand, I'm send some link.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sharing some links.
So we
Yeah,
can
thank
have 10 minutes, Patricia, for question answers.
Yes, please.
Sure. Yeah, no, thank you so much. That was great. And I really appreciate your framing, Priyesh, as well, of like this kind of engagement, or like really submitting the research process to the level of the community, or even taking a job in order to gain that sort of insider perspective is really the kind of methodological commitments
Yes.
are really, quite astounding, I have to say. But I mean, I don't want to monopolize the time that students have to ask questions about your work.
Yeah.
But it is interesting as well to think about it as this embodied practice, the way that you are sensitive to different odors because of submitting yourself to
Yes.
this. And I guess one question I would have was about, you framed it as a sort of that you have access to data, right? And
Yes.
maybe data not in the conventional form that we saw with our earlier presenter of numbers and quantities and measurements. So I was wondering if you wanted to speak about how you understand this, let's say, sensory stuff that you are sensing, that you gain access through this direct engagement with these sites as a form of data collection.
Yeah. Actually, nice answer. Nice question. Yeah. When I saw that, we are not, TRAS is not actually TRAS. If I'm looking at TRAS, it's actually, it's a data, data of our history. It's data, if you have data, you are the most powerful person in the world. What you have the data, like everyone, like collecting data. So landfill is full of data. So our history, our like what I experience. It's a government data, it's a medical data. Everything is dumped in there. Sometimes, as metaphorically, I was thinking when dumping ground, it's it's because of the methane gas is born. It's the fire broke. That's sometimes it's man-made, sometimes it's like natural way. The data is going. It's all data is born. It's the last 2-3 days, data is gone. How to like see the data in different ways. So different perspective, different like we are talking about data. We are not talking about what I create. But knowledge, knowledge is it's a kind of data. It's a landfill. It's a big data of our history. It's in maybe my previous project was I was thinking about how landfill is like when it's empire, how the soldier is become to, how they like what exactly landfill producing a soldier. It's an invisible soldier in somewhere like it's like element kind of things like different goddesses, god or devil or something. It's landfill has a power to make devil, because like that's thing. But I'm still working in like landfill because it's so many government has a rule. So they have not given any permission to visit in landfill. I'm using my previous job and some contact to visit that landfill, but it's very hard and very health risk. It's collecting data right now. Uh, this is strictly banned. Three of the landfill. If you take a permission, they have several point of take permission. It's not easy to go there because uh, this is already out of control. They want to explore more. So that's a sensitive. Now it's a very sensitive zone. Yeah, it's very like fascinating me to. I want to give myself to risk in research there because it's I'm living in Delhi and it's bound to be do something about that project and about the living in the landfill area, the landfill neighborhood. They're feel like hopeless. Nobody was listening. Nobody like when I'm trying to giving some question and answering. They are very angry. Why were giving you answer? Nobody was listening. Like accidental death, social discrimination, and all these things happen. The people are coming and take photos and take video, and we don't know. Yes, maybe it's a black hole. never return. What exactly happened in there? So yeah, I hope I'll give to you answer. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for any of the speakers? शिवाली फॉर आपके इसमें मैं सोच रहा था कि कैसे मटेरियल का जो एंगेजमेंट है और क्योंकि वो मटेरियल ऐसा है जो आप शेयर करते हैं वहाँ की कम्युनिटी के साथ और कैसे उस मटेरियल के साथ भी उस कम्युनिटी का एक कोलैबोरेटिव एफर्ट लग जाता है और वो एक इंडिविजुअल की जगह कोलैबोरेशन का काम बन जाता है तो वो ट्रांजिशन आपके लिए कैसा रहता है मैं एक बार इनको भी बोल देता हूँ क्वेश्चन so I was thinking of Shivali's work in the terms of how each and every effort turns into a collaborative effort rather than being an individualistic or the individual artist figure. And that comes with the sense of community and the material that are used in the works. तो अगर आप वो मटेरियल के बारे में कुछ या फिर वो कोलैबोरेटिव एफर्ट क्या रहता है उसके बारे में अगर आप कुछ
हाँ हाँ मतलब मेरे जो कम्युनिटी मीन्स कोलैबोरेशन है एक कम्युनिटी बनता है बहुत सारे लोगों का इन्वॉल्वमेंट से अपना एक कल्चर से मतलब सब जो मिल के जो करते हैं वो कम्युनिटी बनता है तो मेरा काम भी जो है कम्युनिटी प्रैक्टिस जो है कोलैबोरेशन जो करती हूँ तो वहाँ पे जो मीन कोई एक मैं आर्ट वर्क बना रही हूँ तो वहाँ पे लोग जो आर्टिसियन लोग हैं उन लोगों के साथ डेवलप करती हूँ मैं क्योंकि मेरे लिए वो इम्पोर्टेंस है क्योंकि कुछ चीज है जो उन लोगों से मैं जब कुछ आर्ट वर्क बना बना रही हूँ बट उन लोगों को मतलब मुझे इतना समझाना नहीं पड़ता है उस टाइम वो मुझे हेल्प करने आ जाते हैं कि मतलब कुछ बन रहा है कि उन लोगों का भी स्किल वहां पे दिख रहा है तो इसीलिए वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है कोलाबोरेशन जब एक मटेरियल यूज भी है तो वहां पे भी वो लोग मुझे बहुत सारे चीज का मतलब नॉलेज देते हैं कि हाँ इसको ऐसे मेकिंग करते हैं क्योंकि जब लार्ज स्केल में बनाने जाती हूँ तो बहुत सारा ऐसा नहीं कि मैं अकेला बना सकती हूँ वो इम्पॉसिबल है वहां पे मुझे हेल्पिंग हैंड चाहिए और जो कम्युनिटी है उन लोगों से भी बहुत सारा क्योंकि ऑलरेडी वो लोग बना चुके हैं तो वैसे ही डेवलप हो जाता है एक मतलब आर्ट वर्क शायद मैं आंसर दे पा रही हूँ।
हाँ नहीं नहीं एग्जैक्टली यही किस तरीके से ये सारी चीजें साथ में आ जाती है जिस उस
हाँ
एक
हाँ
एक्ट की वजह से
हम्म,
सुहासिक okay so she was saying that how community for her is a collaborative space and community can't be imagined without a collaborative effort and the materials that were used in the in that are used in the projects also come with certain kind of knowledge that already exists within the community and how those material are not so alien for them and it is through the process that she gets to learn a lot about the community and the engagement with them, right? Yeah. Any last questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Neeros. Thank you, Shivali. Nick is not with us right now, but thanks to him as well. And
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sharing some link. Go to the link and check.
yes.
Or
Yeah, no, this
yeah,
was such a wonderful session. It was such a pleasure to hear from both of you. And then also now we have the mental challenge to link all of these different ideas together. So really grateful for your insights and your generosity to share with us. Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Suhasini. Thank you, Meher, also for
Thank you, sir.
moderating.
thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, sir. Thank
See
you,
you.
Arun, sir. Thanks.
Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody, or evening.